Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Swiz.
and together we are the B&S Show for all your bullshit needs coming into the week. A little bit off the cuff. You're probably thinking, hey, we've got to wait 5 months for the Ben and the Swiz. Obviously, Chris is about to have a newborn, so fuck him off for a little bit. The B&S Show, so we're going to rename it, rebrand it for all your bullshit needs. Talking footy, talking trades, talking life, talking all things that are not Optus and that fucking shambles Swiz. So thank you for joining me, mate. Good to see you. Welcome to the off season. How's the finals? Oh, that's right. Richmond got knocked
Fuck
out
you.
the
Okay, we're
first
done.
round.
We're done.
Oh,
Fuck off. We're done. That's it.
oh.
It was a good off season, guys.
No hesitation, no score review on that one, Swizz.
They can get freaking get fucked. A lot of yous. Yeah, well, aren't the Geelong supporters happy right now? They got to dodge us, and yeah, the only reason they fucking won the flag and that because they got the easy ride against your fucking mob, mate.
Oh, come on now, come on. It's easy to get flogged, but hey, look. As far as I'm concerned, Sydney got beaten by 82. Brisbane basically came second, mate. I'm telling everyone to the bank. Brisbane pretty much were runners up. Might as well have been, should have been, could have been, but it was definitely Geelong's to lose. Before we do move on, though, SC Insider 100, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, all the audio platforms as well. So Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it. And on YouTube, please do search for us, Supercoach Insider. We'll still be using all of our Supercoach stuff. So some of you will be clicking on this going, holy shit, there's a new podcast. Like, what's going on? The footy season's done. Ben and Swiz are hanging around. So what we do want to do is we're thinking when we can, maybe weekly if possible, get together and just talk footy, talk trades, talk life. Let us know if you are interested in that continuing because it is a long time between the off season. Once January sort of kicks around, we'll definitely be getting into a whole bunch of preseason stuff. And when position changes come out, we'll be sort of hitting that up as well. So let us know if you are interested in listening to us or engaging with us on the weekly, or maybe a bit of bi-weekly if we can, let it out a little bit, Swizz. Also need to give some shout outs to our sponsors. So number one, splashvodka.com.au for all of your lovely splash vodka needs. Huge hit. I actually took some of these into work and they were literally going off like a fire. I don't even know. I was going to say something on a tin roof. I don't even know the expression, Swizz. That's
Cat,
really
cat on a
bad.
cat on a hot
That's the
tin roof,
one.
mate.
How non-Australian slang of me to mess that one up. We also do need to give our shout out as well because we haven't been much on the socials for the last month, so this has to be a really good one. Support for Supercoach Insider is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in the men's below the waist grooming. Their products are precision and tools for your family jewels. See, look, I haven't read much for a little bit, Swizz, but Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Over 6 million men worldwide trust in Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off SC Insider 100. Go to manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping. That is about to wrap up, ladies and gentlemen, so get in there. I need to get back on there as well because I need some more of the body wash and that sort of stuff as well. So obviously we've got the performance package. So we've got the trimmer, the crop duster, the nasals, all of the works there. So I actually need to get some more of the
Lip balm.
the lip balm and everything. So I've been using the body wash daily. I've been using all of those sort of products. I've got them in the shower. And I really need to get some more of that. And as you know me, I need to kind of get on there and get a little discounts because it is good gear and it's much better than the stuff you buy at the shops. And I need some more. Swizz, how are you finding the relationship with Manscaped and their products?
Oh, mate, love it and that, and I'm going to try to give them a bit of a contact for the cricket club. They're fantastic, and I think yeah, highly recommended. If you haven't got them already, definitely give them a go.
Yes. So, and they've supported us for, I think it's about 4 months now straight. And so they sent us out a couple of different packages as well. So obviously I need to use the trimmer. As you can see, it's a bit of a holiday mode at the moment. We're letting the beard sort of hang out. And um, yeah, so I was going to say I won't shave until Brisbane win at the MCG. Oh, but wait, that happened against Melbourne. So, and how's this? You guys are giving me flack saying, oh, what's going to happen first? Essendon to win a final or Brisbane to win at the MCG? And I was like, it's going to happen this year, and people laughed at me. And all of a sudden, a broken clock can be right twice a day, and I will take that one to the bank, Swizz. So, again, shout out to manscaped.com. Go check them out. SC Insider 100 is the code. Um, Wish we recorded more in this last week, but the reports have been extremely well, and thank you for those that support us. And we'll see what sort of other promotions we can get going later this year, maybe even to the BBL. So let us know if you like the Big Bash. So Swiz and I am newer to the Big Bash. I've only been maybe, what am I, 2 seasons in? Love
Yeah.
cricket, but normally it was more like just Australia kind of, and you watch a bit of the T20, but it's like coming into when you start watching Supercoach, you're like, who are all these players? Who's the up and comers? Who have you heard much about? And it's really quite difficult when you sort of come in and now you kind of go, okay, well, what's the format like? How do you be aggressive? Um, yes, I'm really looking forward to that challenge. Now, Swizz, speaking of challenges,
Mate,
let's wrap
before we get into
off.
challenges, actually, I know you want to bring up stuff. Can I give just one shout out to a sponsor? Peter
Ooh,
K. Peter K. always listens to the show. He's a big listener of us. He's actually come on board to sponsor our cricket club. So if you are somewhere in the southeast of Melbourne, O'Brien's Real Estate, they're based out of Keysborough. If you're selling a house, renting a house, go down and see Peter and the team at O'Brien's, and just give them a shout out, Parkfield Cricket Club, and Peter will help you, and it will help us. So thank you so much, Peter. O'Brien's Real Estate, guys. So appreciate it.
Pete, well done. Swizz,
Yes.
full disclosure, any sponsorship, mate, needs to be put in email 24 hours in
Yeah,
advance
that's
to,
not
to
going to
let us know.
happen. I promise, Pete. I'll definitely give it a shout out. I
No,
do
no, yeah.
appreciate it. It's apart from like we love the support and everybody. Well, I always say support us and that, but yeah, if everybody who knows me knows how much I care about local, especially cricket and especially us with our women's and girls. If you are out there and you are able to support my cricket club, really would love to hear from you because all those be it dollars or whatever, goes back straight into our girls and women's program. And we've got Pancake Parlor and Sporting Globe on board. So if you're eating at any of them, feel free to just put us as your club, and that helps us as well. So
Look at you
beautiful.
go.
Well,
How
mate,
funny
look
is
at me
that?
go. I
Me,
know.
me, me joking like it's a formality needs to
That's
be
right.
in 24 hours and written in advance. No, it's awesome. I'm really happy, and
Appreciate it,
I
mate.
can support. I can support what Swizz is saying there because you actually put it out in the group chat, and you were really stoked and really excited to share that news and say, "Hey, boys, talking about the podcast and how you're really happy with that's networking." So I think it's really cool. Speaking of challenges, I've got two things we need to do, Swizz. We need to wrap it up before we move forward. Where did you finish in the Supercoach season? And I need to tell you a story about how I lost my bet with Chris. So where
Well,
did you finish
the
in
last round I
Supercoach?
dropped 15 spots, so I end up finishing outside the top 300, 305, which I'll still take. I think that's my second best finish, so might be my third or fourth, might be even my fourth now, fourth top 1,000 and third top 500. So yeah, pretty consistent up there. So I'm still pretty happy considering the season I had to start off with. I think round 7 or 8 I was 13,000 or 13,500. So
You
yeah,
came from the
came from
clouds.
nowhere. If
From the
only
clouds.
if only I was like you early on, or Abdul early on, that 50K could have been given a shake. But our good mate there is definitely living the high life. So well,
Oh,
there's no
where is he?
knocking
He's in Bali or something? Like,
swing it, doing giant swings in Bali and in the pool and you name it. So
yeah,
we
taking
are
the
getting
kids.
minute by the minute updates where he should be just enjoying his trip. So he's probably listening to the pod right now, sitting in Bali and having a
Oh, winning
pina colada or something like
winning
that.
50,
And
wouldn't that be nice? And you talk about bought the coulda, shoulda, woulda beans. But literally, if I brought in Dawson instead of Bailey Dale, which I was going to do, that's an easy win. If I brought in Sinclair instead of worrying about his buy structure, and if I brought in Darcy Cameron, like those three things, literally ones that I tossed and turned on, that probably could have been the difference between me finishing in that high in that top 10. Now for me, I finished 70th overall. The Heaney Masterstroke, he was like 440K and came out with like 6 or 7 tons in a row. To the point where I think it was even the second last week. I actually ignored him because I was like, oh look, I'll take was it a 79 or an 80 or whatever? I'm like, just in case, because I think against Saints he can go 60s. So I actually kind of left some points, on the bench, but yeah, I wrote it out that last week. I had a final to play as well, and I was like, look, I need this Heaney point of difference. I won quite a few leagues. Really happy with that. So 70th overall. That's my highest finish ever. And I think my best before that was 361st. So that's my best finish. And look, I'll take that one to the bank, Swizz. So you're the master stroke. So I have extremely enjoyed it. The thing I enjoyed more this year wasn't about on the podcast, we spoke about how I was traveling, and I was quite humble because I know how quickly it can unravel. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you're top 100, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, injury, and then you slide out to literally 1,000 or whatever overall. So, um, very happy, very humbled by the community as well. And yeah, Abdul talking about all those winners and everything as well, like that as well. So trying, you know, to interact, and I really enjoyed that this year. And it wasn't a pissing contest, or it wasn't like, oh hey, how big's your bits?
It is, but
It
yeah, go
was
on.
just well,
Yes, no, I know what you mean,
well,
mate.
with you, me, and
Yeah.
Chris for sure. Now, speaking of Chris, this is my predicament.
Hmm, hmm,
We were one each, right? So everyone knows Billings was averaging like 83 and a half. He only needed to average 80, and he got injured on zero. So that killed him. He went down to like a 73 average. It hurt him immensely. And then he was out for the rest of the season. So I lost that bet to Chris. I got one up early. Fremantle won. I needed 6 out of the first 10 games for Freo to win, 5 being a parlay. And Fremantle dominated like we said they would
yes.
all preseason that Chris hated on.
Hmm,
And Fremantle dominated all through the first 10 rounds. And so I was one up on that. So it all came down to Patrick Cripps and George Hewitt, right? They were neck and neck. Patrick Cripps, I thought, was done for. Next minute, the suspension was overturned. He was playing 2 more games. There was word of Hewitt maybe coming back in for that last round or whatever. He was even named, I think, at one point on the extended bench. So I was like, yeah, that would be so great. Hewitt, if he scores less than Cripps, then it just increases the deficit and chances of me winning. Collingwood leaked so many points in the midfield. Now, here's the problem. Cripps turned it over so hard, was barely near it in that first quarter, but then was best on ground. 3 points, right? Now, here's the pain of my existence. Cripps needed 2 points, 2 Supercoach points for me to win my bet with Chris. And
hmm,
you know how much I love winning bets with Chris, right? And we're watching the game, we're chatting live, we're going through. Patrick Cripps does what he does. He gets the ball in the contest and goes, you know what? Instead of just putting it on the boot, getting an inside 50 and winning me my bet, he decides to do I'm going to palm you off.
hmm,
I'm going
hmm,
to palm you off. And then get done holding the ball with about a minute to go, -4 super coach points. The ball goes down the other end and I lose my bet. All he had to do is put on the boot. Contested ball, clearance, inside 50, I win. Instead, Chris is laughing his fucking ass off
hmm, hmm,
and
hmm.
absolutely giggling and being like, boom, you owe me $50. And that kind of broke me, Swizz. I felt very, very heartbroken. And then I felt very heartbroken because I was really much on that bandwagon on free Crips for
Hmm, hmm,
Supercoach. And
hmm.
I was like, there's not much
Yeah.
in it. But I was like, free Crips, free Crips, free Crips. And then next minute, Cripps plays and then beats Lockie Neal in the last round, which he would have come third if he didn't play. So um, felt broken, Swizz, to finish, mate. I don't know how I feel about that. Wishing Cripps would, play. I didn't think he was even in for a shot. When he got 1 vote instead of 3 in the first round, I was like, Cripps isn't winning. Cash out.
Yeah,
Everyone cash
that
out.
was it.
And then he wins
Yeah.
and knocks out my boy Lockie Neal. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'd actually backed Took pre-season, so I'd yeah, I was sitting there, I was gonna get so bloody frustrated because I had I had a 3-leg multi pre-season. Took Miller Brownlow, which nearly happened, Nick Dacos winning the Rising Star. And I was on the wrong Carlton forward for the Coleman. So I wasn't winning anyway because I was on Harry Mackay. But I tell you what, if Took had got up, I would have been pretty frustrated because that was paying some nice dosh there, mate. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think I was pretty close with my top sort of 3 to 5, I think, in the Brownlow. I didn't have Cripps winning. I
Laird
think I had him
stuffed
in the top
every
5.
one of Adelaide stuffed
Oh,
up every
Lair.
one of my multis.
And Port.
Everyone.
And Port. Port
No,
Adelaide as well. Amon.
I'd actually left Port out because I
Okay.
couldn't decide between Wines and Rosie. So I left them out, but I had Adelaide in everything. Like I had Ben Keys, the guy who's going to come second in Adelaide's vote count because of course he is.
Yeah.
And
Who
friggin'
won Adelaide again?
Tex
Tex. Oh,
Walker.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
it's those
fucking
games where
easy.
he just comes out and kicks like a bag and
Yeah.
gets 3
And they're
votes.
like, oh, well,
So,
who can we give it to? Oh, yeah, the buddy, Mr. Potato Head there. We'll give him a vote. And
very funny. Let's move into the finals, but before we do, I'm gonna crack open. I've got one here. I was actually thinking part of my maybe next week or week after, I might even try and get some footage of my whiskey collection and kind of go through. I've brought out a few here today, just because we're having a nice little end of season finish. I've got it's
what do you mean in
wonderful.
the
I was
season
actually
finished, mate? I'm 10 weeks, 9 weeks into EPL. I'm 5 weeks into
stuff EPL,
AFLW
mate. I gave
fantasy.
up. I gave up on EPL. I don't understand it. This is the Cardew 14-year-old's car strength. I was saving this, and I had some mates around for the grand final, and I thought I'll crack it, and it's so good. It's probably one of my more expensive bottles, to be honest. Light in color though, but extremely, extremely, extremely delicious. Finals. Now we're gonna get into the finals, but do you want to just maybe touch over? Do you want to just talk about it in general, Swiss, so you don't get butthurt about the whole Brisbane
Yeah,
Richmond thing?
yeah.
Because I was at
Mm.
that game and it was
Mate,
absolutely
I tell you what, it
sensational.
was, mate. There was a crack.
It was a great
It
game.
was a cracking final series. Like, there's no doubt about. What was it like?
Was it
Yeah,
was until the last the
well,
first 2 weeks,
two
the
really
first two
shit
weeks.
games of footy, and like
Yeah,
technically ruined the entire final series, mate. So, up
pretty
till then,
much.
it was fantastic. Like, how if as a neutral, even in yeah, if you're a neutral fan or even on the wrong side, like yeah, us Tigers supporters were, and in the end, Collingwood supporters were, you still can respect the how good the final series was. Like the AFL just absolutely got a winner. Like I can't believe all the talk about the ratings to do with the grand final, because like it's the first time I know in 3 years. I was going through it with the wife. I think it's my second barbecue I've been to since maybe 2016, because obviously it's had all the Richmond grand finals and then being in lockdown. So of course, the yeah, it might have been in the afternoon, but you would have thought so many people were out. And then I guess you get like the odd casual fan. Yeah, maybe they didn't watch so much, but yeah, it was just fantastic. You just wanted to tune into every game because you didn't know what was going to happen. And just
I think more
unfortunately,
people were out than usual. So I know they were talking about ratings were down and blah blah blah,
yeah.
but as you know, I wanted to go to the Storybridge Hotel where they have a big screen in the car park and
Mm.
it's all sanctioned off. But the issue was I had to look after baby the next day, and I'm like, I'm not going 40 minutes into town to try and somehow limp my ass home and then look after baby. So I ended up just having people over. But
Yeah, we were
I
the
know a
same.
lot of
Well, so
people that
we
went out.
we go over to a mate's house of that. So there's however many of us usually
Yeah,
there,
I think we had about
and
eight
sometimes
people
partners
here.
as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
does that count as one TV screen? Well, yeah, there could be
yeah.
10 to 15 people watching that one TV screen. So
Correct. And
yeah,
I think
where if it
after all the
was,
lockdowns,
that's
it's
right.
probably more people actually. I doubt there was many people just watching it on their own, to be honest.
Yeah,
And then you have all
exactly.
your pubs and clubs and everything like where it's just a packed house. So I think it's probably a little bit skewed on that, especially this year. Yeah, last year was in Western Australia and all the restrictions, and now it's kind of like even more open. And even the government's kind of opened everything up a little bit again just recently. So
Yeah. And you
um,
probably would slightly get it a little bit more because there'll be some people like, well, I'm not going out now. Or those who have kids who are like, well, I'm not going out, I'll just stay at home and stuff. So yeah, you probably do get a slight boost on that. But then you're what I know it's all about the ratings and the money these days and stuff like that. But so many people like going out, the whole tradition barbecue and that, and you get the few sad sops on like Twitter saying, "Oh no, we need it at night." Well, those are the people who don't go out, and that shout out. Like if you want to catch up with people, shout out to our forum or whatever. I'm sure there'll be people out there who want to do something at a pub or whatever. But realistically, just complaining because you're sitting at home by yourself with nothing better to do. Well, yeah, everybody else
can
is out there
you
enjoying it.
Can you imagine how bad all the players and coaches would be the day after if it was a night
Oh,
game?
that too, because like I think Richmond Adelaide, Grimo and I don't know what time we got home from the city the next day. And I know, like some of the boys at the cricket club, they end up getting a bloody apartment for 3 or 4 days. So they've rolled in pretty dusty Sunday afternoon into the where do we go? The London Tavern, and then I think back on the Monday as well. But yeah, could imagine if like okay, so the game finishes at 10:30, and then well, I don't know where the after party was this year. My
But they
wife
also have to
made a
do all
big point
the
about that, but yeah,
they
but if
go
you
back to
do all that
Geelong, they
and the
do all the other
players
stuff.
for example, Geelong went back, say, all the way to Geelong, but even like the fans, let's say, okay, we get out there sort of 11, 12 o'clock, that like, if I think that Richmond party, which went through to like 3, 4 in the morning by the time you're really done, that, yeah, you're probably like an hour or two in and it hasn't even really kicked off properly yet. And it's 2, 3 in the morning. So, and what do you do also, for example, like, let's say your bub in 5, 6 years becomes a footy fan. Like, there's no way they're staying up to at 11 o'clock at night to watch their team win.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen on the traditional. I mean, even there's so many commitments before the game, after the game for the winners as well. There's
Mm,
also commitments, and then they've got to do the day after.
yeah,
Generally, like Geelong, they went and actually did a thing back, back there to celebrate with their career, with
yeah, they do.
the community. And if they push that back even later, I mean, Jeremy Cameron, there was footage on him on his Instagram. He's pouring beers. It must have been someone had a keg or like a fully suave kind of place, or it was a really low key pub or something. But he was pouring beers at 4:40 in the morning, put the medal on the
I
cow,
think it was
and
out of his farm. So
I
that,
was. Oh,
yeah,
that's a good
because
setup,
obviously those who went back there. There's no cameras or whatever. So apart from
right?
when they pull out their own camera,
That's a good. He actually had the
yeah,
logo and everything on the tap, which is
and
awesome.
that's how famous is that cow right now?
Oh,
Like
all
just
right.
fucking
And then
amazing.
he's kicking back, he's drinking, he has that awesome footage. So I shared that pretty well straight on. It's probably one of my most liked tweets of the year, to be honest, because I saw it very early on, and I thought it was just absolutely hilarious. And then he's sitting there still drinking beer in front of his campfire at like 7 in the morning or whatever it was. So he had an absolute bender. Then they have to go out and do the all of the the day after celebrations, and then they had
Yeah.
Mad Monday yesterday, which I thought again was hilarious.
Oh, they were
Old man
do you know the
Dangerfield.
worst thing about this? Because as a Richmond supporter, I hate Geelong. Like, we just hate them. Like, the rivalry over the last few years has been full on. But somebody tweeted today going, Melbourne won the flag last year, and you just hated them that 10% more. Geelong won the flag, and you actually liked them 10% more. And everything they've done since the moment of winning that grand final, there's nothing you can't not like about the Cats. Maybe Tommy Stewart, but I think that was a bit of a beat up. But we can kind of get into him as Richmond supporters because still we're dirty on what he did to Prestia. But outside of that, I thought the way the Cats handled themselves the last few days, and even the Swans for that matter, like
Oh,
the
well, the
way
Swans
Rampy
just went into
spoke and everything,
hiding, mate.
they're such on the game, but afterwards they're such a professional outfit. I thought they were really good. So the grand final wasn't so good, but you just admire how well the Cats played on that day.
Can I just say, it's also nice to see Danger play a grand final and not knock someone out, Swizz.
Yeah, well, it didn't get him anywhere that day, did it? Dusty just then shrugged him off and did his
Oh,
thing.
that
So,
second half.
and then the
I
cat,
actually
I know
saw
the
that
Pie
that game.
supporters, they were pretty funny through the week with some of their signs and
Oh,
yeah.
Papley, he went missing.
Even
Um,
I even like the way they did it this year because apart from the absolute cock up of trying to do the fucking parade down the Yarra River,
oh,
which was awful. But the whole idea of that whole day where they set up and then they had the two games at Punt Road Oval. Now it's hard to do the fixture for the AFLW and so far in advance, but it was good that they had the Swannies there. But yeah, they had the game at Punt Road, then the game over at Collingwood's training ground, and then back at Punt Road. So there was plenty of footy on for those who went into the city, and you could see people lining the streets to watch the game at Punt Road. So yeah, the whole idea and the whole week leading into it's fantastic. So you know, I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully it stays in the same slot, and we get a good final series next year.
I do agree. And it was probably the first week and a half was absolutely, mind numbing, just so close. And then it was like Collingwood beat Fremantle a little bit easily. And then Brisbane obviously fell over. Geelong were just their last two games were as a complete performance as you can get. And when you talk about, Brisbane are a highly scoring team, apart from the fact, don't even get me started on what they did wrong that game. Just the forwards couldn't even bring it to ground to save their life. But Brisbane are a high scoring team that generally have been around the mark for quite a while. And they played well against Melbourne. They played well against Richmond. Geelong were just absolutely sensational and they were flawless. So you're talking about, I put them up as a pretty good opposition. Collingwood definitely tested them, but I don't think Geelong played as well as they did over those last couple of games as they did against Collingwood. So I think they kind of got out of the woods a little bit there. They kind of, scraped across and then lifted their game. Now, I think there was a big differential in that final. Like Sydney, again, a quality side, but they were just shell shocked. The anthems there, you see it in their eyes. And there was only one person that I think could probably really hold their head high. And Chad Warner had the highest rating game he had all year. Talk about rising to the occasion, talking about lifting, and there's a certain caliber of person that actually lifts in big games. All of them went missing except Warner.
Mate, I'll add
He
Robbie
was the
Fox,
best on,
mate. I'll add
highest
Robbie Fox in
ratings.
that because Robbie
Oh,
Fox
but he
was
was pretty good.
he was good. He absolutely towered Jeremy Cameron. Uh,
Oh yeah, he got that cheapy off Dangerfield, but
yeah,
yeah, I'm talking about like he was the
yeah,
highest
yeah.
rated
He was,
person
he was.
on the
So
field.
Warner and Fox, you walk off the ground and go, well, we couldn't do it anymore, but they had no teammates.
Oh, Absolutely not. They got beaten up in the midfield. They just got absolutely smashed, inside 50s and all of the rest of it. So, um,
I haven't
speaking of
seen Luke
Geelong, though,
Parker destroyed like that in a game of footy before.
well, he had his handbrake on, mate. He was just literally he stayed parked. The old Parker.
Oh dear.
That was bad. I should have done that one better. I'm a bit rusty, ladies and gentlemen. Can I touch on Selwood? Because look, I really liked Selwood, and I kind of faded off a little bit, the little bit of the flog aroma, like and yeah, the ducking Selwood, and even then at the start of the grand final, he kind of tried to be like, oh, like he threw the ball back too hard or didn't throw it to me, and I was like, come on, mate. But three things. Now, if you've been hiding or you haven't seen the publicity, because I've been on holiday, so I've been on Twitter way too much, to be fair. Um,
No
but
such thing.
before the game, he carried Gary Ablett's little son out, right? So he's obviously got some um, health concerns and disability. He won't walk ever, apparently, something like that. So he carried him through, and to see his little face light up, man, I thought that was absolutely sensational. And then he follows that up by after the game giving his boots to the Oz Kicker of the Year. And like, oh, I told you I'd come and see you. Like, as in, I told you I'd come and see you, or like we would win, and then gives his boots up. And I was like, okay, well, so starting to get a little tear. I was like, mate, this guy, what's he doing? And then thirdly, to get their what's his name, Sammy or something, the
Yeah,
water, to get
yeah.
him over the boundary line. And then not only did he get him over the boundary line, and Jeremy Cameron gave him the Jeremy Cameron just kept giving everyone his bloody medal that day, and then he was so excited for that, and then apparently he actually called him. His mum's like, "Hey, I've got him. I'll take care of him. I'll make sure he gets home later. Like, come hang out
Yeah,
with the boys."
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I just thought that was
And
absolutely
like he
sensational. That was
won
three
the
things.
Jimmy Steins Award this year. And so Joel Selwood, the player, can yeah, what was it? Go eat a dick. He's the guy's the biggest flog in the fucking world. But Joel Selwood, the person behind the scenes, absolute gentleman in that. And I think it might be just, like the best players do it. They get that white line fever. They get on the ground. It's all go 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 go. Um, and sometimes we judge them very harshly on that, especially because unless it's at the team we follow, we want to be critical of them. But then, what you don't get to see is what they do behind the scenes. And we all know there's certain players, like I've given the story like Lance Whitnell. I know he's copped some shit over the years and that. But like I've seen him off the field, done some children's clinics with him. Absolute sweetheart of a bloke. And there's plenty of others out there. And I'm sure our listeners have probably have done it with different people as well. And I've got a mate, Ray, who talks very highly of Mitch Clark and some of the stuff he's done in regards to children in hospitals and stuff. So, unfortunately, the media, one little bad thing, they do focus on that, and you forget so much of what they do off the field, which is amazing. And
Oh.
so, all credit to Joel, because I tell you what, there's some of the stuff that you're hearing about him, it does bring a tear to your eye. And I just wish he played more like that so he could be more likable on the field. But no, all credit to him.
Don't get me started on the media, because well, remind me if we don't. Degoe we have to touch on,
Hmm.
yeah, the whole Selwood thing, and it's kind of like this white line fever. You get super competitive, but then after the game, it's all smiles. You've done your hardest, and I think Dangerfield's very similar because he's just an absolute pit bull, and he's focused, and he's so competitive. But then outside of the game, he starts to think about other people and the players and the association, and I thought, him in the whole grey stuff, man. I thought he, definitely likes to even take the piss of himself a little bit. So I thought that was really good. And I'm the same sometimes. Like I'm not an aggressive person. I get really competitive, even times that I shouldn't get competitive. Do you know what I mean? Like you're playing a game against sort of like some, like you kind of let some kids win or whatever, but sometimes you kind of get a little bit competitive, or you're playing touch football, and that's why I'm kind of banned from playing sports because of I did my calf, old man calf, and there's no halfway in. Do you know what I mean? You start like, oh, I'm just going to take it easy, and then you start to warm into it, and then you get competitive, and it just sort of comes out.
I'll give
And
you a
even when I'm,
story, mate. We had
oh,
the,
hang on, hang
the
on, hang on, hang on,
you
hang
go.
on. Let me finish. Let me finish. And then even then, if I'm like coaching or something or other, before the game, super nice. I'm like, hey, yeah, and the other team, hey, best of luck, guys. Blah blah blah. Shake their hand. Hey, good luck, coach, whatever. And then the game starts, and I'm just like, kill him, like not quite like that, but just
No, very
just
much
get
so.
real competitive. And then
Yeah.
after the game, I'm like, oh, hey, thanks very much, and I'm done. But that window, I'm like competitive. I can't help it. Go
Yeah,
your story.
the wife's family, her mum and her aunt, they've been starting pickleball on a Monday. So because it's her holidays and I had the day off, we went to pickleball, which is mainly social pickleball for people over about the age of 50 and that. But so pickleball's pretty well. You think bat tennis back in primary school,
Okay.
kind of like a version of like tennis slash badminton, smaller court, few little different minor rules. So this is social pickleball, mate.
When
Me
you
after
when you came when you came home,
Yeah.
did you ask your wife to play a bit of tickleball?
Not after the way I did, mate. Not after the way I played in that 2-hour social session. I tell you what, the,
Jesus. So what is it
the
like tennis,
yeah,
but for
it's like a mini
children? What
version.
is it?
You think of a mini version of tennis, like think bat tennis, mate. Like if you've ever had that at school, I know we had have it down
There's
here in
all
primary
those
school. Like just
uh,
paddles, like
yeah, paddle bat. Okay,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
So yeah, mate, I was chasing every ball, and one of them, like I lost a point, and one of them like, no, it's all smiles here. Don't worry, don't get grumpy and that. And I'm like cracking the shits because I've lost the point. So I'm like you,
It
mate.
reminds me of was it Meet the Fockers and Friends? How it's like
Yes,
friends are playing tennis and then
yeah,
Monica's just like hitting everything and Chandler's like, whoopsie, I missed it. She's like, I got it. Smack. Or Meet the Fockers, a bit of volleyball in the pool and he's just absolutely just
yeah,
cracked it. Outstanding. Yeah,
it's
it's
lovely.
it's built in some of us, but at
That's
the end
right.
of the day, once you've kind of gone out of that window, especially for competitive sports, um, yeah, I think it's easy to kind of okay, now don't take it seriously and now shake hands and everything. So really impressed with that. Now, I do have a story to tell you. And it's speaking of your little multi, whatever. I'm not a huge betting person, ladies and gentlemen. I went out to the sporting club to watch Brisbane and Melbourne, which the first half I thought were just done for, buying 3.5 litre jugs because I'm
Mm,
like, stuff this game's over. Um, and it's funny, I don't bet. Normally AFL Grand Final, which I didn't bet this year, or Melbourne Cup. Generally, it's kind of where I'm at. I used to do all the multis and everything, and now I'm kind of just taking a back seat. Someone's got to pay for the whiskies. Um, but it's funny because I walk into this sporto, and for me, it's like, okay, well, you have your hit. There's my money, and it's done. So basically, I went in, I put $50 on this dog, and it fell over
mm,
because I'm like, if it wins and that's my money, I can then have fun and play some bets or whatever. If I lose, that's me done. Now it's funny because that same night I had this mate of mine, and he was talking about, oh, who's first goal scorer? Brisbane, Melbourne, blah blah blah, and he put money on Alex Neil-Bullen, and he was at 35-1, and he put $5 on him, right? So not heaps of money. And it's funny because Alex Neil-Bullen gets a mark 40 meters out right in front, and I'm like, it's Neil Bullen, it's Neil Bullen. And then he's turning around celebrating. He's like, yeah, Neil Bullen. We look back and he's kicked it into the pocket and passed it off. And he's absolutely spewing. So the other person obviously kicked the goal. And then we just kept heckling him the whole game, like at halftime, like, oh, hey, remember that time Neil Bullen passed it off in front of goals?
mm, mm.
Um, Absolutely livid. Now, DeGoey. We're going to get into this trade
Yeah,
situation.
let's
30
get into
minutes
the
of shit
trade.
talk
This is
so
what
far.
people
Now,
want to talk about.
here's I'm going to give you my perspective first, and then we'll get into a rounded conversation. Last night, DeGoey got shat all over hardcore on Twitter, on Facebook. Oh, you're a flog. You're as if you're not going to have behavioral clauses. Oh, you didn't sign it. Bugger off. I think a 360. Grow up, DeGoey. You sign the bloody thing. Blah, 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 blah. And then today it came out pretty much saying, it had written in his contract that Collingwood can cancel his contract at any time it sees fit for them. Not even, oh, if you do something like this, or if you do something, like if you get charged with an offense. It was pretty much like, we reserve the right to cancel your contract at any time for any reason. No wonder
Hmm,
he didn't sign.
yeah,
I would not sign that either. Basically saying, okay, well, number one, you'd have to assume that it would be an even amount of money per year on that if you're going to be able to cancel at any point. But I wouldn't sign that either. And then the AFLPA came out today, and I'm not a huge DeGoey fan. I think he's highly skilled and a little bit of a flog. I keep reminding people, I think, was he the pick that Brisbane gave up for Dane Beams? I think it was
I
him
think.
or Moore. One of the
No,
two. I
Dane
think they
Beams
got
would have
DeGoey and
been
Moore.
that would. Oh, the original one, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
original, not what
yeah.
we got back, which we shouldn't have got back. But yeah, so as in, I think, I mean, maybe he needs a good role model. Put him in a room with Wayne Carey or something. Um, just it's. uh, I think if you do something really bad, then
What is
that's it done
on Wayne
anyway. And I can
Carey?
understand.
What's he doing these days? Does he want to guest spot now that Chris isn't on the show?
Oh, jeez, no, he's probably lined up somewhere. Um, but I can understand Collingwood trying to have some kind of behavioural clause, but the wording in there, and it's so hard because you'd have to write literally a list of specific scenarios in order to be able to cancel a contract based on this. Now, what they've done is they've tried to have it so vague and open that pretty
Hmm.
much if they decide, they can cancel, which I don't think works. So I'm not surprised there, but I just really, that's where the media really shits on. Even the whole, which is another thing, the whole Fagan and Clarkson thing. Um, I, it's horrible if any of it is proven true, which is probably going to be a difficult part because they probably need those parties and get some witnesses and all of the rest of it. But in general, it's horrible. Like we're talking about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the world was probably at behind on where it should be. You look at now as far as the AFLW coming through the Indigenous perspectives, and you're talking about um, the rights of the land and actually going through and talking about with mine the Quandamuka people, blah blah blah. Like you kind of go through, and it's now taught and educated from a low level, right? And things are starting to change, and it's great that they can reflect back and look at mistreatment. So, I'm kind of. It sucks. I don't like it. It's horrible for any of it proven. And you obviously, I think the AFL has done a fairly good job as far as saying, okay, let's take care of the people first, and then they have an investigation. So I'm kind of waiting to see what the investigation comes out as because they've named three people. I'm not sure all of them are going to go down. I think it'll probably be someone. Now, the thing that kind of worries me is that generally the head honcho doesn't pull the strings. Well, they pull the strings, but they don't necessarily execute. So my concern is that maybe Clarkson's probably going to kind of get through and be a little bit of someone else did this, and I think it'll be those probably running underneath him, the development sport. Was it the development officer who probably did with all of the relations and cutting off the partners, which is horrible. Will probably get done, and then even then, if there's any truth in the whole Fagan thing, being underneath him, probably doing stuff that maybe Fagan wanted, but it's going to be really interesting, and I kind of hold judgment as to until the report comes out and until the judgments are made, and I'm extremely eager to find out where it sits
Yeah, the
because I'm
hard
not sure
thing.
who to be angry at, to
Well,
be
that's it.
honest.
The
Like, as
hard the
in,
hard thing is because unless you're there, you don't know. And we've heard different players be linked in that. So that makes it difficult. And obviously, you could be talking 10, 15 years ago, which then people's recollections of different situations then aren't as clear as they were. And then where do you draw the line? Because there's rumors that other current senior coaches were in senior roles at the time at the club. So the fact that the whole, well, yeah, you were there, you had knowledge of it, but you didn't act, is that enough for a sackable offence compared to those who actually were involved and the ones,
well,
handing
Hawthorn
out this
produced a
treatment and that,
lot of coaches,
So,
a
yeah,
lot.
so then you've got this whole issue then of an industry where you've, and I'm not trying to justify because if it's found that these people have done whatever and that, yeah, okay, there needs to be consequences there. But from a footy perspective, and you from that memberships and everything like that, but there's players right now who are looking at being traded to different clubs on the basis of working with certain coaches or working with certain clubs, and if it is North Melbourne and Hawthorn and Brisbane, and there's rumours of possibly other clubs affected by this. How much do you then go after all that? Well, we're going to open up the trade period again, or let players who you know may have been affected because of what's the outcome of this investigation more freedom, because some are making their life decisions now for the
No, I
future.
think there's. I don't
And
think there's
that's
any
where,
room
and
to
this is where
move.
it's going to get difficult, because there are, like, we know there's players that are joining North Melbourne to go join Clarkson. Now I'm not, as again, if he is guilty of any of this, and that, sure, he deserves the ramifications that are coming his way. But it's a tough one right now because, as I said, players are making decisions and sponsors and all that for the future based on these appointments that have been made. So, and then you've got the other situation where you've got like an Essendon who hasn't, well, we believe hasn't officially, picked their coach, but we're all rumors is Brad Scott. still Uze and Hurd's name get lingered around. But if these other jobs become available, you know, is for Brad Scott or you know, an Adam Uze, is the potential of coaching Brisbane, for example, much more appealing than coaching Essendon? And do they sit there and have to think about what could be potential outcomes? So there's a lot, you know, of sort of pieces to play out in this. And it's not a good situation for everyone. It's like obviously the worst situations there are players that are affected back 5, 10 years ago and their families. But yeah, there's a lot of other people who are going to be highly affected out of this. And when I heard the other day when people were talking about, well, this is going to be bigger than the Essendon drug scandal, well, yeah, it is, because it's going to have a wider reach of other clubs now. If it came out, if this all happened this year and it just came out of Hawthorn now, then yeah, it's probably on the same level, maybe not as big, whatever, because it's only affecting one club, and it's as bad as it is. But now that it's affecting like pretty well the whole competition, and then you'll be finding other clubs now, like the Do Better report at Collingwood, they'll be going through their own reports and investigations to make sure none of this sort of comes up. And just so you know, I think there's going to be a lot of eggshells and a lot of clubs on eggshells, and I think it's not going to be. It's just probably the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I wasn't expecting Brad Scott to kind of put his name in the ring for Essendon, and I kind of wonder whether it's incentivized, as in he's putting his name in late for Essendon, not particularly to get Essendon, because as you know, a lot of the other coaches already far down the process, but to kind of tell Hawthorn, Brisbane, anyone else, like, hey, I'm actually interested in coming back and coaching, which means that as soon as, you know, if things open up, then pretty much he should be at the forefront of talks.
Hmm.
And wasn't Uze also at Hawthorn at the time?
He
So I think it's
was.
going to
So
be,
that's
yeah.
that's
So
where
there's
the
another
room.
one.
There's the rumor where have the Bombers cooled a little bit on Uze, because we don't know. Like, he might have absolutely nothing to do with this. But what happens if it is? Like, there's just speculation at the moment. Um, and we can go. We went through a list of assistant coaches that had worked under Clarkson who are now official coaches or senior assistant coaches at different clubs. And there was a reason why they were successful, because they had some very good assistant coaches, and now these people in very high up roles at current clubs. How much does what they saw, what they know, come out, and how long does this investigation take? Like, it's not going to take a week. Like, we could be into next season before.
No, I think they're trying to kind of wrap it up, but again, it's hard. Yeah, trying to do it over a 4 to 6 week sort of
That's right.
period before probably draft day. But
Mm,
um, and some people have re-signed contracts, I think, on the
of
premise
course.
that Clarkson's been there, and I think it's going to be the difficult part, with the trying to chase down like who actually made these comments, and then there are also some, apparently some people leaked some stuff to the ABC which might not have even been in the report or their version of things.
Mm.
So it does sound very complicated. I do not
And that's what
like
you
it.
said,
Poor
mate.
Gills just got through COVID, and now he can't even leave with some dignity. He's got to try and wrap this up, and he can't actually leave until he doesn't want to leave the CEO position
But
until it's been wrapped up.
Gill started with a scandal, ends with a scandal, and
Oh,
here
did
he
he really
thought,
start with that
well, he
scandal?
started with the drug scandal.
Oh, mate, he's had. I know people shit on CEOs, but I think, and I know they're like, oh, going for the broadcast rights and focused on money and not on Saturday footy or whatever it is, right? But considering that with all the COVID and the amount they were losing and trying to navigate through with no crowds and trying to keep it there and Tasmania, I can't think of a more proactive, successful CEO. Like, as in, I'm not exactly a huge Gill fan, but
Yeah,
he's
neither am
very
I. But
he's very
like, again, it's like
personable.
the whole Selwood thing. I like,
But you know what you're getting.
yeah, commend him for all the good things he's done in the game, for sure. Because there's a lot that's very positive.
Yeah, and I guess there's definitely a lot of room to move there.
Trades, mate, trades,
Speaking,
and that there's a lot of
yes,
discussion around this, and
I know.
we
I heard.
obviously
I
just
heard
touched a
Port
little bit.
today. I listened to a little bit. Port Adelaide are hoping for a first round pick for Amon.
Yeah, well, the interesting one, because they were comparing McStay's potential
Yes,
contract to Scotty
to
Lycett.
Lysette. Yeah,
Yes,
look
and
at you getting red today.
yeah, mate. Well, Scotty, they ended up getting a end of first round pick for that, and if that now how much does now the salary cap being more than it was back then affect that? Like, yeah, is there a like to like comparison there? But if Amon's going to get, you know, whatever it is, 5 years over, I'm gathering it's going to be over 600,000. And with his age and that, well, Porter probably in their right to think they're going to get an into first round pick, because that seems to always usually be about the terms, like, you know, mid-20s, 5 years, 600, 700. Yeah, so they might actually get that. Then again, if McStay and Amon get that, some of those, that's already 2 second rounds getting bumped back. You add in Will Ashcroft and then Jasper Fletcher. That's now, so if you're sitting there with pick, say 22, that's all of a sudden becoming pick 26. Yeah, so all these sort of things come into play. And yeah, there's like a ton of players that, and some big names that have been just mentioned and bantered around. So obviously, there's not as many free agents this year. Like Amon and Massey seem to be the 2 main ones. But you just look like, you know, Josh Dunkley, DeGoey, who else we got?
Brad Hill even is probably looking.
Tom Mitchell. Like, you know, we got
Henry.
Brownlow medalists who, you know, their names have been thrown out, and not even just thrown up there, but look like they're moving. You know, Jackson, Grundy. So they,
Cunningham as well, I think, is also a free agent, I
yeah,
think.
that.
So
So
you can also
but the free agents compared, I think Jake Lloyd actually maybe still one of the biggest free agents, still not signed up as a contract, but
really.
most of the free agents are outside of them,
Yeah.
like the outside the lesser names, but it's the other names that are getting thrown out. But yeah, no, I believe Jack Lloyd hasn't come to terms yet, which is
Well,
interesting.
Campbell easily can replace him.
Yeah.
So, as in Lloyd is exceptional, but yeah, the Seagull getting older and all the rest of it, they have the depth. I mean, they've got who's the guy that never gets a game that should get a game?
Will Gould.
Will Gould. There you go. So you got Will Gould, you got Campbell, who was the sub in the final. He's a defender. So I think they've definitely got this depth. And plus, I think Campbell, what's he, 3rd year? Was it this year? 3rd year
Yeah, I
next
think it
year?
is.
Yeah, the pay goes up.
Yep.
And they have to start paying them more. So you can't just kind of hold
Yeah.
on to these people and keep paying them more. So I think usually the first 2 years you pay them quite small. Then they start to renegotiate a contract. And then from there, their price goes up, which kind of ties into probably the biggest perplexing issue with this whole draft period is Bose. Like, I
Well,
don't understand
that's
because
it.
when Gold Coast said they're willing to put pick 7 on the table, I thought they meant, hey, if you want Bose, we'll give you pick 7 and we'll take like pick 4, or we'll get something back in
Mm.
return. But no, apparently they're just giving away pick 7 to
Like,
get him off their list and free up the
the biggest
cash.
issue there, all they had to say is, yeah, we'll Bose and we'll work something out, because there would have been clubs going, well, you know what, I wouldn't mind chasing him anyway. Like, here we go,
Yeah,
we'll give you like pick 40 in return, no problems. The moment they link pick 7, the issue is now all the Adelaide supporters are coming out going, well, you can't ask back for pick 5 for Rankin. And Gold Coast are like, well, we want to keep him. It's like, well, he's out of contract. Yeah, they've still got leverage because, you know, Adelaide's
yeah.
what, 4th or
But if they're
5th in
giving
the.
away pick 7
But
for
if you're
nothing.
giving up pick 7 for nothing, how can you ask for our pick 5?
Well, here's funny you speak of that because I'm saying Adelaide should bloody go and take Bose.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, right? So listen to me, because Scholl apparently was already kind of maybe on the fringe on getting out anyway. He's a winger. I know Bose isn't exactly a winger, but they can definitely shift some cards there. You got Matt Crouch as well. See you later. Get out of the side. So you got Scholl and Matt Crouch. Get out. Bose comes in, right? Now they give up pick 5. They get Rankin. They get Bose, and they get pick 7 in return. So they slide. Oh no, yeah, from pick 5. So they slide 2 places and get 2 players. Like, that's the biggest steal I think I've ever heard in my life. And if you're not paying Matt Crouch and you're not paying Scholl's pay rise, you've definitely got money to make it happen. And this is the hottest contention, the hottest issue, or the hottest property, because Brisbane's come out today saying, well, they're looking at Bose because it can help them get obviously Dunkley and Ashcroft.
Mm-hmm.
Now you look at Zorko's signed a 1-year contract, probably on pretty minimal money, you'd imagine. Rich from 2024 probably not getting as much anyway. So if they go, okay, well, if your contract's back ended, then sure, we could probably try and maybe work that out. Rich is getting old. You've got a few of these other guys that are sort of have been taking up a bit of the money, probably getting a little bit less. Maybe Danaher, maybe he'll get a little bit less then, or he'll be, renegotiate or whatever. But Brisbane, I think, have come today saying like they're interested because of the capital it gives them, and they
Mm.
need capital. So instead of, and this is the funny part about trade period because I love it, but I hate it. It's like trashy TV. It's like it is. It's like what's that? Married at first sight or something or other,
Yeah.
right? Because it's trash TV sometimes because everyone's like, oh, trade. You need to trade Rayner. You need
I
you
did
need
hear that.
points.
I did
You need
laugh.
points. You need points. And oh, I used to be a coach of Adelaide, so I know what I'm talking about. No, you weren't a list manager. Shut the fuck up, right? Oh, we trade Rankin and oh no, so trade Rayner and this that and the other because you need points. I'm like, okay, yes, you can't have it all, but what Collingwood did basically to try and get up enough points anyway, because they were worried that Dacos would get picked number one, is there's a whole bunch of 2-for-1s in there where you give up a second round for multiple thirds, you give up a third for multiple fourths, you give up a fourth for multiple fifths, and you just keep
Yeah.
going until you get more points. Now, I think Gold Coast have 3 second round picks, 2 or 3. Collingwood have 3 or 4 third round picks. Flip, 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 like a garage sale.
Mm.
Flip, 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 flip. Give up a future first round. And the thing I hate about trade period, and this is the trash TV comes in, everyone's a list manager now.
Yeah, they are.
It's worse than the
Everybody.
averages of it's the worst than the 2023 averages for Supercoach.
Mm.
Oh, this person's going up. Oh, you're shit. Oh no, this, that, and the other. Like, everyone's just so objectified on, oh no, I'm right. This person's gonna kill it. Everyone's going up in average. No one's
Yeah.
going down.
Yeah.
You never hear of like, oh, this person's gonna tank. Everyone's going up in average. Everyone knows what people are worth. Everyone has this great idea. Oh, Henry. No, Henry's worth a first round pick. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
And it's great because some people, especially like Essendon supporters, some of them, I'm sorry to pick on you guys, but it just always seems on Twitter, and it's probably because a few of your supporters are pretty like you, and you know the ones I'm talking about. The shit they post on Twitter, and they're worse than the Doro, or maybe it's just because the Doro's mentality. They think it's it comes through with some of their trade ideas. The other one, which is a good question I've seen from people, is the Bows should be St Kilda, Essendon, Hawthorn, potentially Adelaide. The 3 clubs that seem to be 1, 2, 3 for him are Geelong, Brisbane, Richmond. Geelong obviously seem a bit further down the track. The Lions threw their hat in, and I believe he met with Richmond. Richmond met with his manager either yesterday or the day before. And everyone's like, well, can we start getting audits on everyone's salary cap? But the thing is, like, the good clubs, they manage their list so well. They push money back, they get people that play for less to get people in. Um, and they'll be able to facilitate this. The issue then becomes if you say hypothetically, I think they were talking about like Essendon might have 3 mil in the cap. I think they were saying leading into this trade period. You got St Kilda who are about they've lost Hannah's on what was he on like 800-900K.
They've lost about 6 people, haven't they?
Potentially
Retirement.
Brad Hill, who's going to be on a lot of money,
I
Paddy
don't know how
Ryder,
they
a
get rid
lot
of
of
Brad Hill.
money, Hunter Clark, decent money. So all of a sudden, they're looking at maybe $3 million as well. And then their fans see, oh, we're not going to go after Bose, even though that would get us a pick 7, and we've got all this money to spend anyway. And the question then has to ask, it's like, well, what do the struggling clubs do to attract players when the 3, like, Brisbane, Richmond, and Geelong have been successful as anybody? And you wouldn't be surprised if Sydney could find a way to get involved with that. How do you compete with these successful clubs who just manage their cap so well that they'll come out and get Bose and probably turn him into a superstar, as he was a high pick,
And then
and
get pick
then
7
get
and
the
get
pick
like Jai
7.
Clark and then be like, sweet, thank you very much.
Exactly. So, I do feel for some of these lower team supporters are going, well, what the hell can we do? And then, like, people also ask about like the Suns, how have they managed their cap this badly? But there's some been good points been made. I know through Trade Radio and some of the other stations down here, where if you get a top 10 player, you get the first contract's 100 grand plus the playing, how many games they play. And a lot of those high ranked players do play a lot early. So they come out for their first proper contract. And where you might get a guy who was a pick 50 and his second contract might be 200,000, maybe 250. These guys are already commanding $400,000 minimum because they're a top 10 pick. Doesn't matter if they haven't put the runs on the board. They were a top 10 pick. They're worth 400,000 now. And then you throw in the fact that, we got to try to keep them from going back home. So you start to pay overs there. So then now it becomes 500,000. And it just, and if you're in a situation where you say we're like in, an Essendon for an example right now, and you've got 3 million to spend and you have to use your cap, all of a sudden you go, okay, well, we've got to use it on someone. Let's start overpaying our players or front ending players, which then everybody else goes, well, I want a piece of that. So you get that situation, the Suns early on, they had all this high talent, all of them get their first contract. Well, we've got to pay someone. So instead of paying them the 400-500, let's pay them 600-700. And then the next batch come out of their first contract. Well, they got 700. Why aren't we getting 700? Or I'm going to walk. So they get 700, and it just goes on and on from there. And
I
that's
think
where
that's
you,
where Rankin came in because they said to Rankin, "We can't afford to pay you anymore."
yeah, that's
When you
right.
have a look at their key figures, it's like, okay, well, Anderson, Rao, these are two big players that you're gonna need money
Yeah.
to free up for him, and Ben King,
Hmm.
right, who wants to stay. So you're kind of looking at going, so what are the key pillars, and then prioritizing those key pillars and Rankin like, yes, we like you. There's already this appeal. We'll give you 650, and Adelaide's like, oh, we'll give you 800. Now the whole Bo situation is apparently it's $1.6 million on a back-ended contract over 3 years. So
Two
the some
years.
clubs was it 2
Two
years?
clubs are wanting to try to expand to three. It's 2 years. 1.65 million.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
but this is the problem
lot.
because
No
then you
wonder
push
Gold
your money
Coast are
back.
thinking of
And this is where like people are like, well, how do like Geelong, Richmond, and Brisbane manage the salary cap? Well, Geelong for a long time, the captain's the highest paid player. So Selwood might have been on 800,000. So they bring Jeremy Cameron and go, okay, you can have the life, live closer to home, have some freedom, whatever. We're going to pay you 800,000. Well, Gold Coast are paying Jack Bowes the exact same amount of money. And then what the difference is like we've seen Geelong, they've got Stewart and Atkins and some of these players from local footy and brought them through the system. Richmond had guys like Marlon Pickett who would have been on basement, your Camden McIntoshes, Nathan Broads, players like that. So you've got guys who are winning premierships who fill the role because they're not the superstars. They play their role and they're on, $250,000. So you can afford to then go buy in players or pay them. But if you've got all top talent like the Giants and Gold Coast have, well, you don't actually have any of these sort of players in, and it's shown now that they've gone the Brandon Ellis and the Chol types. They've actually been good players for the Suns. They're playing above themselves. But if you're going to spend 400,000-500,000 anyway, you would rather a player like that who you know what you're going to get every week. Then yes, we might have a top 10 pick who might come along, but we're already paying them. And then what happens when, say, Jack Bowes in these 2 years, they keep him and he comes out and dominates every game. Well, he goes back to them and says, well, I'm already on 800,000 when I wasn't doing anything. Now I'm a superstar. Well, I'm now worth 1.2, 1.3 million. And that's what GWS had to pay to keep, Kelly or
well,
Canelio.
that's I see you later. Thank you very much for that pick 7 and Jai Clark, we're paying him $400,000 a year.
That's right.
That's where I think Geelong would be interesting. Now, if Selwood does retire, which I think you can't really finish on a high note, he was kind of on the outer a little bit. He still dominated in finals, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did hang up his boots. That frees up a little bit of money. You got Higgins as well. He's gone. So I know they have quite a lot of
Luke
depth.
Dalhouse,
Parfit,
I
Menig,
think, was another
yeah.
one.
Oh, another one. So there's more money again. But you got like Menegola, you got quite a few of these fringe players. Henry getting in Braun as well from GWS. Now, yeah, there was talks about like Geelong's first round pick, 18, whatever it is. By the time the father sons come in, it might be more like pick 21. 21 for Henry. I could kind of, yeah, I still think it's probably less than that, but but they don't really have much in between, so I could probably see maybe that works. So if there is room for a Bose, then at least you could say, hey, well, Jai Clark probably goes around that 7 mark anyway, and he was kind of sliding between that 6 to 10. I think he's very consistent, Geelong boy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not that X factor that some of these other ones are kind of looking at. They're looking at some of this X factor, but super
Yep.
consistent. So I could see the appeal on someone like Geelong going, okay, well, let's take that pick 7. We'll take Bose. We'll put him into our team and maybe get him to go through defense or midfield or whatever. Look what they've done with Atkins or all these other people. You get Henry for a little bit of development when Hawkins leaves, and all of a sudden Jeremy Cameron's their main guy, and then Henry can play next to him. You've got Braun as well coming in that forward and midfield to kind of give them a little bit of something different outside of your older guys like your Menengolas, etc., that are probably on the getting to the way out. And it's a way to kind of keep refreshing. And I think they look at teams like that, look at pick 7, like, hey, we can get a Jai Clark, a guy that can help rebuild our side just by fitting in a bit of cash.
Mm.
And I think it's a good appeal, and I could see. I don't know if he'd want to go there. I'm not sure if it's going to be where he wants to go over which team can fit him, or whether he kind of gives them a hey, like here's my 3-2-1 on the teams that I prefer to kind of go to, and then you can make it manage however it fits you or fits them. Imagine being him as the player, pretty much being shipped off as, hey mate, by the way, you know how we signed that lucrative deal?
Yeah.
If you want to cash that in, we're gonna have to kind of move you on.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, yeah, I want my $800,000 a year. I've been playing for peanuts for a few years and waiting for
Yeah.
the back end of this contract. So it's
But I
a
get
weird
why
position.
clubs do it, because you had the opposite, which was who went to Port Adelaide? Was it Fantasia? I think it was him who may have been, don't quote me right or wrong here, but it might have been 1.6 million over 4, hypothetically, for Essendon. Could have been more or less, whatever. But he had a heavily front ended contract. So he got paid 75% of that the first 2 years. And then all of a sudden, after 2 years, you're like, well, I'm not getting paid 100,000 the next 2 years. Well, let's go get my manager to shop myself around, because then if another club might come and offer me big money here, and instead of paying for 100,000 for the next 2 years, I can go off and play for 300,000-400,000.
See, how does that work? Because surely there'd have to be something back
Well,
from
that's what
the other
I always
club.
thought, but apparently there isn't. Like, and I really would. This is.
That
I
sucks.
would like to hear the list managers they interview talk a bit more about this, because that was the whole discussion at the time, and there was some rumors about that could have been the case with Josh Dunkley when he wanted out 2 years ago, because nobody can really put on their finger at the time why he wanted out. Now, that could be right and wrong. Don't hold me to that, but you don't. But you do hear some players all of a sudden. It's kind of weird when you hear them, they want to come out. But I do know, I think it was Matt Fantasia, could have been Monfries. I know it was one of the Essendon players that went to Port, was heavily front ended. And one after they got their payment of 2 of those 4 years, yeah, they were shopping themselves around.
See, that's
So
messed up. So
yeah,
what should
and
happen is that
apparently
when
it's
they
on.
go there,
Yeah, well, apparently then it's on the club, because the club's like, well, people are like, well, you should have not front ended it. So then clubs want to back end it, but then they get themselves in this situation where, oh, well, we've got
correct.
to pay, but that's kind of what they prefer, because it makes the player then stick around. Because
Well, I guess they have to stick
hypothetically,
around,
if
or but then you're
Bose
giving up draft
well,
picks.
if Bose was a superstar, hypothetically, he came on and was a superstar. Well, he's not going anywhere if he was on that 850. Like, no other club, if the Suns not offering that pick, they're probably not going after him when they find out, oh crap, we're gonna have to pay him 850 a year. So
True,
that's why
true.
some clubs do like back ending it. It holds them, and it gives them, even the Suns trying to offload him. Yes, they could offload a pick, but Gold Coast still have all the power here. Um, where if he was a superstar, well, he couldn't go anywhere.
It's interesting. What
Yeah,
should happen is if you have a front loaded deal and you bugger off, then that club will say, okay, cool, here's your contract, but then some of that money's going back to
yeah,
your
I
old
think
club.
so, hundred
And
percent.
it needs to balance out because it's like, well, if you're getting paid $300,000 now for the next 2 years, but you got paid $600,000 for the first 2 years,
Hmm.
then basically, we'll give you 600,000 now, but some of that money's going back to your other club. You don't get the full piece. You
Yeah,
don't get all of that cake. I mean, that to me, that just seems like a Jake Stringer thing to do. I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, I,
Is that too harsh on Jake Stringer? I don't know.
I've always thought, like, and I've heard it like a bit like the American system where teams just buy your contract, and this is the contract you sign. So if you go to your new team, it's not, oh, we're going to renegotiate the contract. It's that's your contract. Um, yeah, the whole thing of should players be allowed to be traded? I've always said I've got no issues. Players can nominate states, but there needs to be some flexibility for the clubs. Like at the moment, the players have all the power. Like every player comes out and goes, "This is the club I want to go to." Where it should just be, okay, you're in contract, you want to leave, tell us what state you want to go, and we'll trade you to whoever we want.
But what if they're in Victoria? I want
Well,
to go
that's
to
it.
Victoria,
They have
please.
more, but at least every state
Yeah.
has two, teams to deal with there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
That makes sense. That's why I quite like what Jackson did. Although Jackson was out, I think having a drink or whatever he was doing out in the nightlife with Darcy, and people were like, oh well, apparently Darcy and Jackson didn't get along. It's like, well, they're out together
yeah,
at night, so go figure. That
and that's
just
just
fueled
more.
fire.
And West Coast, I understand their situation too. Like they don't want to give up their pick two. They're in a rebuild. It doesn't make as much sense for them going for
Or
Jackson.
especially when the top 3 to 4, probably the top 4 picks, I think are absolutely solid
Yeah,
this year.
and West
So,
Coast need young midfielders.
Ashcroft, you've got,
Warlord,
Warlord, yeah, I think he'll be more like 3rd or 4th I don't know how you say his name, TSA,
Tispers,
yeah, that guy. And then the X Factor,
Harry
the
Schniesel, the Schnitzel
yes,
man.
he's, pretty much kind of like a
Chad
Robbie,
Wingard.
what do you got? No, I'd say better than Chad Wingard,
Yeah,
kinda like a
that I
Rose,
was trying to get the kind of player
Rose,
who
like a Rosie, but he was more linked, I think, to like
maybe
a Robbie
Stringer,
Gray kind of
L
Robbie Gray kinda type. I think
like
Robbie Gray type? X
Stringer.
Factor? Nah,
Oh, Stringer, to all his
Robbie
credit,
Gray.
he
Robbie
does,
Gray.
mate, he's still in his prime, he's a good player.
He's He's still a premiership player, you
He
can't take
still
that away
is
from
too.
him. I actually watched the 2016 premiership
Yeah.
today, going
But
back through the highlights reel.
but that half forward X factor that can bob up, kick goals, run through the midfield. Yeah,
Yeah. Now I will be avoiding starting Schneasel.
yeah, I would for sure.
Schneasel.
But
Reason is I think when he gets drafted, he'll be playing forward only. The only exception to that, I think the only two that really kind of fired in that forward, half forward kind of role, Rosie and Bailey Smith, I think were the only ones that kind of really fired in their first year. Generally speaking, not as likely. I think Anderson did pretty well in his first year. Raul obviously did well before he fell off a cliff. Um, Generally, that sort of midfield role. So I think the big one, uh, Ashcroft, I think will be pretty much in a lot of people's sides. Not only, I think it's hard to put a lot of pressure on him because of people like now comparing him to Dacos as far as the impact he could have. But I hear he's very methodical, writes down a whole bunch of stuff, prepares like an absolute professional. Maybe to go get some tips off Ashcroft, to be honest, because it sounds like
yeah,
he actually writes things
yeah,
down.
I've
He
heard he's got the
prepares
journal and
really, yeah,
really,
correct,
yeah.
really methodical on how he does things, on how he prepares and how he presents, and that kind of just comes out in his consistency. So I think he'll be a heavily picked player. The whole Dunkley thing is interesting for me. Um, he was one that actually came out saying, "Well, basically, if Fagan's there or not there, it doesn't matter. Like, I want to play for Brisbane."
Hmm,
And I do agree with you in that it should be probably maybe not like select the club specifically, because the issue is that, for instance, like Henry to Geelong or someone like that, they have pick 18 and then the next one's pick 36. So there's a huge gap. So if someone's kind of mid range, it just creates this big issue on, well, do I give you pick 18 and get something back, or
hmm,
do I give you this? So there's, and it's hard to kind of get true value when you're kind of only getting one pick out of every 18. That's the difficult position. Whereas when you have a look at, say, West Coast and Fremantle, well, Fremantle's kind of made finals, West Coast is down there. So it's kind of in between, the two. So how do you get there? And it does provide you more options. It provides them a bit of time to kind of compete. And like any auction, if you're going to have two people bidding, the price is always more than if it's just you with a paddle, because
hmm,
newsflash, you put up your paddle and you win.
yeah,
So um, I do agree with you there. And I think it is probably some scope. The players at this point in time are saying, "Ugh, send me there." And, they want to pay me big money. So, get the big money. So, Dunkley, I think, is a huge Supercoach relevant person because he's going there to play midfield, right? Lions is on the way out, but he's still got 2 more years, Swizz.
hmm,
He's into 2024. So maybe he just had a bad year with injuries, but he was an inside contested player, and Dunkley is him but better,
yeah. Well,
in my
mate,
opinion.
the inside contested players are all the ones that ship. I was going to run you through some names, and you can either talk to me about what club you think that they'll get to, or even their super coach relevancy. Uh,
Ooh,
but the first one's Matt Crouch.
yeah. I know they want him to stay, but how? It's like beating a dead horse and then saying, "Hey, by the way, can you please do another lap?"
Yeah,
Like, mate, you haven't played me. You don't value my strengths, and or maybe he hasn't worked on his weaknesses, right? But it's like each player has their strengths. Geelong this year worked, okay, what's our game plan based on our strengths? We're going to work at what we're good at and say, this is how we're going to play football, right? Now, Matt Crouch, I could highly see him leaving. I'm not sure where to. That's the issue. Now, is he younger than, he'd be younger than Titch,
yes, it'll be around the same mark, I think. Maybe younger. You'd have to
age-wise?
be younger, surely.
That's an interesting one. So I mean, well, what are Hawthorn going to do? Or maybe they don't need people that can't defend. I
Well,
don't know.
Hawthorn, yes,
Um,
but I think Hawthorn have already gone. Well, they've got Newcombe, Ward, they're keeping Warple. Um, so
yeah,
it's
see, that's interesting. And getting rid of Titch, maybe because he has commodity, but
what's the it's
they're
the
fetching him for not
NSC age
much.
difference. What's Warple
But
22?
but they're
T Mitchell's
Titch is
28,
not
29.
getting. Yeah, but he's not getting much. They're not going to get much back for him,
No, no, but
which is
it's
the
I
issue.
think
If you fetched him years ago,
hmm,
worth an absolute
yeah.
fortune, and then what
Well,
they do is they play him out of position,
yeah,
play him like forward half
no
the
currency.
time, and then go, hey, by the way, give us a second or or third round pick maybe
Hmm.
because they're not going to get much for him.
Yeah, this guy that won at Brownlow like 4 years ago.
I know. I
Um,
think Titch will go to Collingwood. I'm not sure about Crouch. I think if Adelaide are into Bose, I think Crouch has to go. I'm not sure where he would play though.
yeah,
That's the big issue. North Melbourne could use a midfielder, but they're racking up a few at the moment.
yeah, it might be them. And that, like I've heard the idea of St Kilda, but that's the last player they need.
It
Um,
is the last well, the Crouch brothers, I guess, but
but
Hanbury out. They could use a couple of more injury-prone players with Hanbury out.
Brody Grundy, mate.
I think he should stay at Pies. I don't understand him going to Melbourne because I think Gorn still has a couple of years left in him anyway. He's still doing really well, and I know he's saying, "Oh well, if Grundy goes to Melbourne, then Gorn is shot, absolutely shot kaput. Gorn can play other positions, Grundy cannot. That's the pure fact." So I'd be tempted at Grundy at a low price, but then again, you still know he's going to be sharing the ruck load. Um, I'm not sure I like it. Whether
No,
it
I
gives
don't.
them some security,
I don't like neither, unless one went down with injury. And the only
but
and the everybody's talking about Gorn's got to work on his forward craft because they need a forward. I've actually been looking at this a different way. Why couldn't Gorn start on the tip of the wing, the defensive side tip of the center square, and just drop back as seventh man and just intercept mark? Because that's what he does well.
yeah, but they've also
He
got
always
Lever and
does a
May.
kick. He plays kick behind the play and just does intercept marking. His forward craft's all right, but for him to become their key forward, I don't see it. Where I could see him, like him and May operate so well in that defense when he's doing that. And he was doing that this year anyway. Jackson would go forward more and Gorn would just drop back, kick behind the play, take an intercept mark. Like that game was against Sydney. We had nearly 200 Supercoach just intercept marked all day. Like that's where I see Hal Gorn playing, but I can't just the setup and Grundy can't play forward. Like
But how many years has Grundy got left? Is it 5?
maybe 6.
I thought it was a 7-year with
Yeah,
2 maybe down, maybe it's 5 years.
maybe
Well,
5
the issue
left.
is that maybe because they've got, Oliver and they've got,
Brayshaw and Petrarca.
Brayshaw and these guys coming through that maybe they go, "Okay, well, Gawn's only got maybe a couple years in, and we wanna kind of secure up that extra few years." Gawn can be a role player as a captain, come in, play a little bit off the bench, like Steph Martin has done that pretty
Mm.
well, then go play ruck, then go forward, and then come off and do like a little three-way triangle rotation. I don't mind it. Yeah, I was wondering where the money's coming from. I guess Collingwood's paying for a part of that, but it probably does help secure them to be a premiership chance outside of Gawn's influence within a couple of years. And then if one of them gets injured, then bang, they are still absolutely a dominating force. So,
If you're in a keeper league, you might be able to pick Grundy off a bit cheaper at the moment,
and he'll
and
probably dominate in a
he
couple of years
probably
for
will
sure.
yeah. So he might not be a bad one because a few people going, oh my god, Gorn Grundy. Yeah, I'm not liking that combination.
Or
So
even Jackson Darcy,
yeah,
although
Jackson
apparently
Darcy. I
Jackson.
don't the Jackson Darcy one. Unless Jackson's gone over there to either be a roaming midfielder or playing key position, it makes no sense at all.
Rumor is he might even be playing half back,
Yeah, I've heard that
like
centre half
centre
back.
half
He
back.
wants to
So
play centre
that's
half back. That's
and
what I've
then
heard.
ruck. So that's going to be
Yeah,
interesting. Well, mind you, I guess against another key forward, he's probably got a nice aerial presence. He's probably quite quick and he's good at his feet. So it's probably not a bad spot to go. Instead of being forced forward, at least if you have some accountability to you, then it's probably not the worst place in the world to be. And then that obviously forces Meek out. So there's going to be a little bit of a roundabout.
well,
Um,
forcing half of Fremantle out because to fit him in salary cap wise.
yeah, I think some are leaving already. It looks bad though.
It does.
It,
Logue,
it does.
Tucker, Akers, Liam Henry, Lloyd, Meek. I'm sure I forgot someone there. But you're talking about,
Um,
but they've all like Darcy
Some of them were
Tucker's had
kind
his
of fringe,
injuries.
but that was
Blake
but that
A-
was their depth. Their
Blake
whole depth is
Acres had his
gone.
best career year this year, playing on the wing.
Mm.
Like Logue probably needs more opportunity, but that is their depth there. Meek is their depth in the ruckman. Henry's, their academy player that was top 10 pick. So you'd want a lot of faith in there in Erasmus, Amos, a couple of those other young fellas coming through.
They're gonna need money as well for Sarong and
Well,
again for
that's right.
Brayshaw as well.
Yep.
And young
And
Chapman, these guys are
Darcy.
an absolutely Oh, they're gonna need money.
Yep.
And
Oh,
that's for
Lob.
sure. So
Lob.
Lob's he's the interesting one.
Yeah.
So even the manager saying, "Oh, we're hoping that they'll change their mind," because Fremantle came out being like, "Well, no, he's contracted, he's staying." Like no ifs and no buts. Not like we're gonna entertain it. I think they're kind of like wishful thinking, and they're kind of like, "Well, no, we kind of need." Makes sense. Sign a contract, you stay. And the thing I spoke to Chris today talking about the whole Bo situation. He's like, well, that's fine. Oh no, so to go, he's like, well, sign it. He goes, contracts are made, they're not even worth anything that they're signed on anymore. I said, yes, but if it is worth something, because if the club wants you to kind of go, then you can still get that money somewhere else. They still have to sign you somewhere else
Yep.
on the same money, right? So you're still guaranteed that paycheck. It does give you some security. It just might not be at that club specifically. Whereas if you sign something that says, hey, they can terminate you for any reason, then they can terminate you for any reason. And it's really poor in that. So I think signing a contract does secure you a paycheck. It just doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be at that club. So I think that has opened up a little bit. Hey, they're contracted, wonderful. You really want that player. They want to go home, but they're contracted. You're going to have to pay me more.
Yep.
But knowing like Lob, it's like, well, mate, you're contracted. So you can whinge, bitch, or moan 2 years running. But unfortunately, you came over here. Remember, we picked you up. You came from GWS. We picked you up and nurtured you, and we took you on, and we gave up a lot of money for you, and we're paying you a lot. Gave away a lot, some picks, and gave you a lot of money. We expect you to play, and especially seeing we're in that finals window, we need a miss to kind of have 12 months to kind of, nurture and flourish. And Taberner's had some issues that we want to make sure he's through completely before we ship you off. So, a pick probably just doesn't cut it for a Lob, to be honest. What are you going to do? Get another young person? It's like, well, no, we kind of need you for 12 months to make sure, Fife's fine, everyone's fine. Taberner will make sure he's good. Miss gets, 12 months in. And then he can sort of start to take the roles from you. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe they're waiting for Jackson to come in. And once they land that, so it's like, well, Jackson said, hey, I'll go to any Western Australian club. So maybe they're like, well, no, Lob, you're not leaving, and definitively. And then if they happen to go and get Jackson, it's like, okay, well, now we've got Jackson to do some of the ruck work.
I think Jackson actually just said that, so he's copying no heat, because every player goes, "Oh, I want to go to this club," and it looks like, "Oh, well, I'm actually genuinely homesick. I just want to get home," but everybody knows he's going to Fremantle. I think it just makes him look like he's playing, the good boy out of all this.
I reckon they're just doing it for schnitz and giggles.
A little
Maybe
bit
Gil from the AFL said, "Hey, be funny? Just tell them that you want to go to Western Australia and make the Eagles think that they have a chance."
Yeah, and West Coast
And
like,
just use up some man hours, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're in for a chance." It's like, nah, mate, you suck.
the Tigers, mate, with Taranto and Hopper, especially Taranto.
I don't know how they're going to get it done, but I do think GWS are high as a fucking kite, mate. To think that they're both worth 2 first-round picks each is absolutely ridiculous. But here's the funny part. You have a look at the history of double first-round picks coming out of GWS. How many times have they actually worked out?
Mm-hmm.
Right, Shield was at least a couple of first-round picks, not that great.
Just Cameron.
Okay, but not that great. Jeremy Cameron was 3 first-round picks, just won bloody premiership. So that one's kind of paid out. But again, it was 3 later picks. It wasn't like high end picks. Devin Smith, wasn't he like at least a couple of
He was
first
definitely
rounds,
at least
maybe?
one.
I think he might have been a couple. Oh, sorry, Trelaw was definitely in some of that mix. Adams is also gone. I don't know if he was too, but they, I guess they keep cherry picking some of this talent.
Steele was a
But they
bargain.
can't.
He was about pick 25, I think they.
Absolute steal. But here's the other issue with GWS is they can't keep affording to pay all their stars as it lies anyway. So they're already feeling the pinch with salary cap because they're starting to play and pay your Cornelios, your Kellys, your Whitfields, your Greens, right? So they have to move. They can't keep paying these people. So it's like, okay, well, where does it lie? Because you want to first, but you also can't afford this person.
Mm-hmm.
So where's that common ground? And I think it'll get done.
Yep.
Like always, these clubs kind of say, "Oh, I want this, I want that," and it's like, well, no, you say this because it's kind of like you're selling raffle tickets. My opinion. Hey, instead of saying, "Hey, would you like to buy a raffle ticket?" Yeah, I'll take one. Thanks, bye. It's like, "Oh, hi, hey, would you like 5 raffle tickets?" Or, "Hey, do you want 10 raffle tickets?" And they go, "Oh, no, just give me 5."
Mm-hmm.
Or, "You want 5 raffle tickets?" "Oh, no, just give me 3." Whereas if you say, "How would you like to buy a raffle ticket?" They'll just give you 1.
Yeah.
You don't ask for them. You overinflate. You say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, you want 5 raffle tickets? Hey, do you want to buy 5 raffle tickets?" They're like, "Oh, no, just give me 3," because they want to downplay it. They go, "Oh, shit, you're here." And that's why, unfortunately, Donald Trump's been so successful because he kind of forces you to meet him more on his terms than where you want to sit. He goes so outrageous, knowing that when you come back, it's still more on his side of
Mm-hmm.
50%. And I think that's kind of what a lot of these teams do, Swizz.
Yep. And they know that they'll just make the other team sweat and up to the last moment. Where realistically, in a perfect world from us and some of the other clubs, they want the transaction done straight away so they can move on to other transactions. But for GWS, they don't have the cap to go out and get other players. So for them, they don't want other teams making transactions because they don't want their other teams to improve. So they'd be happy to drag this. They'd be happy to get Tanner Bruin down straight away and then drag Taranto and Hopper for the whole rest of it because there's then no chance for Richmond to come back and try to do something else, and then that might hold up other trades and any opportunity because we saw that last year. There was, and we've seen trades not get done because the what was the one with Carlton and was it Sydney? Was it the Danaher one that year? And I know Dunkley was in play for that where it was the flow-on effect. They needed one trade done, so the next club, and some of these clubs are like, well, this doesn't actually help us by getting this trade done. It's just going to help everyone else. So let's drag this out to the last hour. We'll make sure then we've got the deal that we need to done. And then trade
Yep.
period's over and you guys can sit on it for 12 months.
And in the last hour, you find out where the desperate people lie. It's kind of
And
like
that
3
too.
a.m. and 3 a.m. in the club.
Yep.
You find out where all the desperate people are at. No, if you're really keen on something, you will see desperado, right? The needy, the greedy, the sleazy, fasheezy, just 3 a.m. in the club going, I'm empty handed. I've thrown out all my best tricks. I've done the dice move. I've done this, that, and the other. I've used my best pickup lines, and this is what's left. And then you see what's desperate. So an hour to go, they go, I really want this player, so they just give up more.
Yep.
And that's it. It's kind of like, was it the stare dance? You're kind of like, who's going to blink first? Hey, you blinked. Give me
Yep.
pick 7.
And there'll be a bit, as you said, common ground there because for the Giants, they have to move one of these players for cap
I'm
reasons.
worried. I'm
So
worried about the Giants because all these people are leaving, which makes sense. But they're going to get a whole bunch of picks, and then what? Redevelop them? I guess they're kind of at that point where maybe they
at
need some more of
least
these picks.
with them, they've made prelims, they made a grand final. So you can
Oh, don't
understand.
flatter them, Swizz. You
Well, I
beat them
know,
in the
but
grand
yeah,
final.
we flogged them in the grand, but they have made 2 prelims, and another grand final. So they kind of
Swizz,
you go, okay, maybe you've hit that rebuild period again. At least they've taken the
Swizz.
list somewhere.
Swizz. St Kilda hit a grand final 2 years running and they have nothing to show for it. Getting to the big
They do.
dance
They've
doesn't
got
mean shit.
22 former St Kilda players that are now premiers.
Hey, yeah, Brisbane Lions just had a premiership reunion, 20 years. How does that feel, Collingwood? Anyone? Have you had your 20-year reunion? No, not yet. You're still waiting a little while. And they'll be like, oh, well, we had one in 1950, so we've had a reunion since then. Well, yeah, suck it.
That's what,
I've
that's
thrown
usually
voices tonight,
that's my
Swizz.
comeback when Essendon supporters sit there and say to me, "Oh yeah, but we've won 16 flags, like the most in the league." I'm like, when you've got to go back to the 1800s to prove your point.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in the 1800s that weren't legal. So, go figure. Now, the last whiskey I had, because I didn't really
Well,
shout it out, it's a sticky toffee apple. So I gave that a shout out. So I had this one. It's a small batch from Starwood. I've been infatuated with Starwood
you are,
lately.
mate. You're infatuated with this bloody whiskey.
Well, With Starwood, no. So I had none, right? I think I then got part of the Whiskey Club Australia. I should probably put my code out there in case anyone's interested. But each month you can opt in or opt out, so you don't have to pay. But I keep opting in because I love whiskey, and they keep producing good stuff. So they had this really good one, very jammy, cask strength. So I was just like, bang! I bought 2 bottles. So glad I did. It's an expensive drop. And then I've now got a whole third of the rack of the shelf with Starwood. So I've just gone through and yeah, they won Distillery of the Year. So I've just gone bang, 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 bang. So that's a small batch a mate brought back there in Victoria. So let me know if you have been in there as well. Brook Laddie is the Island Barley. So that's what the next one that I'm on. This is absolutely sensational. Smoky, not peaty. I'm working my way up, Swizz. Now, it's kind of like you don't drink beer or have
I
chicken. So I can't really relate to
I
you as
was
much on
actually
this
I was
topic.
on, I was on the ginger beers on grand final day just to look like I was a beer drinker. Alcoholic ginger
It's
beers,
like that
but
Canadian
yeah.
club. It's like that Canadian club ad, mate, where they kind of they pretend like they're having things. Um, yeah, so very, 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 very interesting. Um, you lost me with all of your bloody chicken talk, mate. Um,
You're the one bringing up chicken, mate.
yeah, you're talking about ginger beer, and I started thinking about ginger beer, and I just got completely sidetracked. I don't even know where we're at. Um,
No, that's it.
yeah,
I think
so
that I think
really
that's
enjoyed.
most of the trade. Like, there's obviously a lot of fringe players outside of that, but yeah, those big ones that we want to see done early, which won't happen. But yeah, your Dunkleys, your Mitchells, your Tarantos, and there's always some left field one that'll still come from nowhere. We know it. We just don't know what yet. There'll be some big move.
I reckon Robertson might even make way at the Lions, unfortunately. Not Robinson.
Oh,
Robinson, maybe
sorry,
he does want to play on.
I did hear
Robertson,
Mitchy Robertson wanted
the
to play
good.
on.
He was the first round pick.
Yes,
Speaking of first round picks, can we have a little a salute or a bow your head for Eli Smith and for who's that Carlton guy?
Paddy
He
Dow
got delisted.
or
No,
Liam
no, Matt Dow's
Stocker.
going to get traded.
Liam
Liam
Stocker.
Stocker. So
Will
both of those
Setterfield.
players.
Will Setterfield's also been told to wait till after the
Oh,
trade
but
period.
both of these two players we traded up, I believe, to get to Eli Smith, and they traded up, I believe, to
Yes.
get to Liam Stocker. So that's even worse when you're actually trading up to specifically get a person that lets you down. Now, Swizz, I did remember where I was going with this. I said it's kind of like I'm becoming a man as far as the whiskey elements. It's kind of like beer, but you can't relate to the beer. So your tastes change when you first start a beer. Maybe you're having a bit of lemon in it, or you go on the lemon twists, or the rest of it. And then you start to get into your lagers, and maybe you get into your XPAs and all of your craft beer, or maybe you're just like a Carlton Draft kind of person and really like that bitters. Now with this, I really liked the clean cut whiskies, right? And now I'm actually starting to actually appreciate. So I used to like clean cut whiskies or the Shiraz notes, like the sherry bombs and all the rest of it. Now I'm really appreciating some of the smokiness or the peatiness without it being too full on. Now, have you met Stuart Swizz? My mate Stu.
Yeah,
Did
I
we
have.
go?
Yeah.
We met Stu. So Stu brought over a 25-year-old Talisker that he got as a gift for $400, which is now worth $800, and it is absolutely sensational. So now I've actually been enjoying more of the smokiness and peatiness and kind of appreciating it more. So this is smoky, not peaty. Peaty is in my world, Swizz. I don't know if you've had much peaty flavors, but it's like someone's pissed in your mouth. That real kind of like I don't know if you're
I
into that,
can't
mate, but
relate, mate, but
I'm not a huge fan of the peatiness yet, and no, it's not Pete. It's not a guy named Pete that pissed in my mouth. The peatiness, I'm not quite there yet, so I'm learning, ladies and gentlemen. This has got pineapple feels written all over it. I swear.
Mate, I love it. We're an hour and a half in, and now we got the whiskey review going here, mate.
This, oh, we'll have to do one. Yeah, okay. I think this wraps us up. An hour and a half, way too long. The bullshit show, the B&S, the Ben and Swiz show probably has to be about an hour. But it can get off topic. So thank
Yeah.
you, Swiz.
But feel free, drop in your
We'll
questions if
talk.
you want to talk about trades or anything else that you want us to talk about.
Yes, maybe we should do a bit of a mix as well. I think Jock Reynolds does a trade segment as well each week. So maybe I should hit those boys up because they know they love my puns, the old
Hmm.
Jock Reynolds crew, and that might be interesting. But look, next week, Swizz, myself, I reckon we'll try and get back up on there. Let us know. Put some questions out there, all topics. If you have a question, like life questions, like, hey, Swizz, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then we can have a bit of a chat and integrate it into our wonderfully informal and off the cuff segment.
Yeah.
Improv.
Improv.
We did not. The only thing we actually structured before this was Swiz making sure he says, "And I'm Swiz," and that was it.
That's all you
The
wanted me to
B&S
do.
Show. Hi,
to
I'm
say,
Ben, and I'm Swiz. That was
I was like,
the
oh,
only
fuck
thing
that
we
up
actually.
completely.
That's the only thing we practice. All of this, an hour and a half of podcasting and streaming, all off the cuff and live. And that's it, Swiz. Thank you for joining me, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cheers. Well,
See
you're
you
not
guys.
cheersing. You spilt your bloody drink. Bye.
Bye.